Asserting control. Derailment. We don't do conversations. That suggests that it is an equal process where we listen to you and your opinion is respected and deemed as valid. During seduction, our conversations are both information-gathering exercises and monologues, which are there to showcase our brilliance and to allow us to draw fuel from you and assert control. Once we devalue you, our conversations with you become tirades, imperious and haughty speeches, vicious diatribes against you, where we speak and you had better damn well listen. All conversations must be controlled by us, because then we put down any threat that you pose to the assertion of our control. We continue our control over you and, of course, gain fuel from you. Our need for control in the conversation is considerable because if we allow you to hold centre stage, then this threatens our sense of control. We risk the continued loss of control and avoiding the provision of fuel. This is why we must never allow you to think or even achieve some kind of dominance, even if slight, during a conversation with us. The conversation is a mechanism for our use. It is a mechanism for us to assert control over you. It is not for your use. It is for us to shine, to avoid blame, to lash out at you, to hoover you back in, and enable us to achieve what we want, namely the prime aims, consciously in the instance of greater or ultra, unconsciously with lesser or mid-range narcissists. It is our conduit, and you just happen to be involved, but on the receiving end. Achieving such domination and control of the conversation is absolutely necessary, and to maintain such a position, we will engage in various forms of manipulation for the purposes of asserting that control over you. There are many which are deployed, and here are 5 of the most popular ways that we use derailment and the derailment of a conversation for the purposes of maintaining or seizing that control. Number 1, the blame shift. If you are trying to accuse us of something or pin the blame on us in the course of a conversation, this is against our rules. We will not allow this to happen. We are unaccountable, and especially so to somebody like you. If you are able to hold us to account through a conversation, this challenges our control. In order to prevent you from achieving this, we will engage in a blame shift. Whatever you are accusing us of will be your fault. It doesn't matter if there is no logical link in your world between what you have accused us of and our response. These conversations are not governed by your logic, but by ours. Our logic is we must maintain control, and therefore shifting the blame onto you by any means is a logical method of achieving this. There is our logic for you. Understand this, and you begin to understand why we act as we do. Accordingly, you might accuse us of the following and be met with the responses that I explained thereafter. You've been seeing another woman. I can smell her perfume on you. I'm not having an affair, but if I was, who would blame me? You never show me any attention or affection. You can't smell perfume. You're just making that up. Why haven't you remembered to switch the oven on? Why do I have to remember to do that? It's your job. If you spent more time getting on with that which you're supposed to do rather than trying to pick fault with me, this wouldn't happen. Why are you always trying to tell me what to do? But I don't. You're overreacting. I just suggest things for you because, let's face it, you aren't really capable of making the big decisions yourself, are you? That's not me being horrible, that's a fact. You're poor at decision making. You should actually be thanking me for helping you. Number 2, projection. This favoured method of derailing the conversation and thus asserting control over you is so effective because it invariably takes your breath away. By accusing you of doing the very thing that we are accused of, and invariably we are doing, you are so astonished at our bare-faced cheek, or our audacity and our brass neck, that you lose sight of what you're talking about, and end up focusing on the counter-allegation that we've just flung at you. You end up having to defend yourself, and thus your threat to our control has been stopped, and we're asserting control over you in response. Owing to your truth-seeker trait, you do not like the thought of being viewed in an incorrect manner, And because we project with such conviction, you're immediately drawn into engaging us on this point. Rather than just brushing it off, you fall for it every time. You will press on with your accusation, trying to point to the evidence which the narcissism will not let us accept, either unconsciously or consciously, and instead you end up being sidetracked into discussing your own behaviour, in a fruitless effort to try and persuade us that you have not done any of the things that we have accused you of. Your emotional thinking corrupts your truth-seeking trait to cause you to try and defend yourself, and thus you end up on the back foot, and we have rejected your threat to our control through this projection. Expect to hear comments such as these. If you didn't drink so much, you might begin to realise just how horrible you can be, but you can never remember because of your drinking. You always take the last can of soda without replacing it. So selfish. Me, flirt? Have you seen the way you go on around Harry? Only last week you were all over him like a rash. It just wasn't me that saw it and commented on it either. You never turn up on time. I find it disrespectful. You spend too much time thinking about your work and not enough time concentrating on our children. Number 3, interruption. You will not be able to finish what you're saying because of our repeated tendency and need to interrupt you. We do not consider anything that you have to say as having any value, unless, of course, you are providing us with fuel and allowing us to control you. If you're failing to do either of those things, then you will be derailed by interruption. Our mindset is that you're inferior to us, and therefore anything that comes out of your mouth must therefore be inferior too, when it is failing to provide us with fuel and or is threatening our control. We don't recognise or respect boundaries, and therefore regard it as perfectly acceptable to talk over you and interrupt what you are saying. Our sense of entitlement means that we are always to be heard, and if this means cutting across you, so be it. This can reach even childish extremes when we will say one word, so you stop, and then we stop. You try to speak again, and we repeat the trick. We keep doing it, halting you from speaking until you continue talking and we speak over you or storm off in frustration. And when you storm off, you've just given us control. You can expect to hear phrases such as these from the narcissist. If you would just let me speak. If I can get a word in edgeways. Why don't you listen for a change? This is important. I want to have my say for once. If you actually listen to me, you might understand. No, that's wrong. Let me explain. No, you are making this up. This is how it happened. I'm going to have to stop you there. Number 4, topic shift. We love to deflect and distract. We also exhibit a considerable capacity for moving the conversation away from what you want to talk about, and thus have control onto something that we want to talk about, thus giving us control. It might be espousing our virtues, or having a go at you instead. But we will hijack the conversation and wrench it over to our preferred topic. You must not protest, for if you do, you will be accused of trying to monopolise the discussion, i.e. you're threatening our control and failing to listen to us. We are invariably brilliant at talking about ourselves or finding some topic that we can take round and round and round as you feel yourself falling into a stupor of boredom. We rely on your innate empathic nature of politeness, being a good listener, and being decent, so that we are able to abuse this and prevent you talking about something which matters to you. Nobody's interested in what you have to say. At least that's what we believe. Expect shifting comments such as these. Well, that's all very interesting, but let me tell you about. That's not important right now, but this is. That's irrelevant. Now, let me tell you. Oh, I must tell you about this. It's hilarious. I have to tell you about this before I forget. Number 5, silent treatment. The old favourite, much loved by the mid-rangers. If you don't like the way the conversation is going, then, if we can't assert control over you directly, then we will do so by withdrawal. And that is, we will either walk off or sit in silence. This is often done when there is a conversation going on in a group setting as well, where we are failing to dominate the discussion. Where other people are talking one to another and not having regard to us, it wounds us and ignites the fury. The lesser may well storm off with muttering under their breath. A lower mid-ranger may flounce, and the upper mid-ranger will try and bring the conversation back to them, and will invariably do so, especially middle range, by sitting and sulking in silence. This is being done in the expectation of engendering some sympathetic reaction that causes someone to comment on our silence. Are you all right? Or what do you think about that? As they, through their empathic ways, try to cause us to join in to the conversation. When done in a one-on-one situation, this is designed to assert control over you by ignoring what you have to say, treat it as unimportant, and make you feel uncomfortable. You will then be forced, because your empathic nature causes this to happen, to ask us what is wrong, and then chase after us as we remain sullen and silent. Your comments are forgotten as the spotlight returns to us, and the conversation has once again been successfully derailed, allowing us to assert control over you. Accordingly, those are 5 ways by which we derail interactions with you in order to assert control over you. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.